Hey everybody. All right, so I want to get this show off the ground, but I'm still waiting for stuff to show up. But I still want to throw something together. And I had a coworker bring me her laptop to work on last week. And somebody had worked on it before and did a really, really bad bodge job on it. Most importantly, with thermal paste. And tried to reapply thermal paste over another one. I'm sorry, they were stupid. They didn't know what they're doing. Don't work on stuff. If you want to learn, educate yourself, do it right way. There's lots of ways you could have done it, but they did it just completely wrong. The laptop was overheating because of their shoddy work. So it's brought it to me. I got it running good. It's not overheating anymore. It's running properly. And it really didn't take a whole lot of effort. And because of that, I was like, I know I've seen, I've had to work on stuff like this before. And I started going through some of my old images and I was just like, I should really do a video on this because there are some people that have done either didn't take care of their computers or stuff, or had other people work on it who didn't know what they were doing. And I'm not against people not knowing what they're doing. It doesn't bother me. Educate yourself. But people who do things without at least learning and do more damage in the long run, or cause people to have more of a headache in the long run because you decided to be lazy, I'm sorry. I got no respect for that. And there is no respect for that. But anyway, I wanted to put just some images of computers and whatnot I've worked on over the years. This first one is just more of a neglect one. This one was a computer I worked on 2011. And yes, I'm going to be dating myself on some of this. Oh well. So this one is just basically someone didn't periodically go through. This is why we say, and this is actually one of the worst case scenarios I've seen, where somebody didn't take a can of air for a few seconds, or even a vacuum cleaner, and blow out the lint in their case. And they were complaining about the computer overheating and crashing, and this is what I found. And all it would take is a couple of dollars worth of compressed air, and they would have had this cleaned. It doesn't take a whole lot. So when people say, you need to blow out your computer case from time to time, this is why. This happens. And this is not the first time, nor I don't even think this will be the last time. Actually, no. The laptop I recently ordered, it was plugged up pretty bad in the heatsink too. And it's not hard to blow that stuff out. Just take a can of air, blow it out of there, or at least get the stuff loosened. This is a laptop, and this is another one of those cases where it just plugged up really bad. And yes, the lint in animal hair was that thick. Had built up that bad. It almost completely plugged up, and this is the only thing that cools the heatsink. But this wasn't just the only problem. What was happening is the fan was running full tilt at all times because of shoddy thermal paste. Now, this was a twofold issue. One, they decided to apply the whole more is better method, and that doesn't work with thermal paste. Thermal paste isn't some magical gravy that you can put on stuff and it makes the heat go away. It's actually basically the whole purpose of thermal paste is to fill in the gaps. That's it. You have two surfaces. You have the CPU, or basically the heat conducting surface of the CPU, GPU, whatever. And then you also have your heat sink or your heat dissipation, heat pipe or whatever. And due to manufacturing restraints and the cost, manufacturing costs, and to bring stuff down and make it cheaper, those things aren't always perfectly flat. So you have two surfaces which are going to have variance. Well, you use thermal paste to fill in those gaps. To make better heat and basically better thermal transfer to dissipate the heat. You don't need to go overkill with it. This was insane. But the other thing was, it wasn't just that he went really nuts with it. He reapplied thermal paste. You can see this large goop over here on the heatsink. It's just this massive they basically reapplied. And you can see the chunks of the previous thermal paste. And the problem is with that is old thermal paste and new thermal paste don't mix and make good thermal paste. The old thermal paste clumps up, or the old clumps up badly. So by trying to reapply, it just looks like utter crap. This is a Xbox 360, I believe, the classic, the old beige box, if I remember correctly. This was an Xbox that I think someone gave me to work on. And this one was back in 2010. And someone did the more is better method with the thermal paste. It was like they just squeezed it on there, magic heat gravy, they thought, or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But they really went crazy, and I'm really, really surprised. I do believe I cleaned this thing up, and I did get it working again, but I was completely amazed because you can see right next to the main die in the center, you have all the components that are on the top of the CPU, and those do conduct electricity. Thermal paste, some of it, especially the higher end stuff, will have small metal content. You can short this thing out really quickly and brick it, and I am completely amazed they did not. So yeah, people with the thermal paste, it's not magic gravy. Don't slow it down a little bit. This is how bad, you can still see the CPU, GPU over here on the side, but you can see how much was just all over the heat sinks. This was overkill. You need very, very little. It takes very little to fix to make this work. And you can see that someone had previously worked on it, because what they did is they tried to do the red ring of death kit, whereas they take off the standard standoffs, and you can see here he used bolts with nylon washers that are not conductive. And literally what you do is you use enough nylon washers to stack up, and then you use bolts to bolt the heatsink to the ECU and GPU, or CPU and GPU, and it actually sandwiches a little bit better and creates a better thermal contact. But when you do that, you need less thermal paste. So too much gravy, dude. Chill in the gravy. So this one, oh wow, yeah, this was a MacBook I got. It was a college kid. I can't remember her name, but she had a MacBook, and the thing had died. The hard drive had bricked in it, and she didn't know. She was wondering if I can look at it and get it working for her. And what you see here, and this was back in 2014. Essentially, what happened was she had got this MacBook, iMacBook. I can't remember. She got it used, and she was probably the second or third owner. What had happened was whoever had this before had a battery not just go bad. I'm assuming they put a aftermarket or a cheap battery into it. I'm not 100% sure, but the battery leaked. This is all battery acid that had built up inside. And instead of cleaning it up, they replaced the battery and left everything inside. Well, excuse me about that. The problem with this was the battery acid was still eating away at the hard drive. By the time I got to it, the battery had ate up most of the PCB on of the hard drive, and just it was dead. I couldn't even recover files off of it. So here's another picture of, I got it all cleaned up, got all the battery, I neutralized all the battery acid. I had to tear this thing down pretty well, and I got it all cleaned out. Got her another hard drive. Mac formatted it, and got OS X installed back onto it. But that was just one of those deals of, come on, if you're going to do something, do it right. But this was, I just want to get it and get rid. I just want to fix it and get rid of it, and it'll be somebody else's problem. I hate it when people do that. If you do that, you are the lowest form of life. Period. Don't kick the can down the road to somebody else. That's a dick move. Last but not least, this one's my personal favorite, and I reference to this one a lot to a lot of people, and I have very fond memories of the Dell Planter. This was back in 2009 when I worked on this in a local shop here in town. And somebody brought this in, and I think it was out at like a machine, maybe not a machine yard, but some yard out in the middle of somewhere, a construction yard somewhere, where basically it's one of those yards where they have a small little office where the guys come in and take care of their paperwork, but then they go back out and it's all dirt field, as you can tell. Most of that lint that was around you can see right there by the CPU, that was actually built up on it. It fell down like that when I peeled the heatsink shroud back. If you guys remember the old Dell toasters, that was the common thing for years for them, was this big, huge shroud, and you got the big 90mm fan that sucked air across the heatsink. And I'm not joking. If you can, most of you guys remember the gap there's a pretty good sized gap between the bottom of the motherboard and where the bottom of the case is. And you can see how much that is built up there. It is gnarly. It literally, I had to use an air compressor to blow out the majority of it. And here's another shot. You can see how much dirt is on the outside of this thing. And it's an old P4, yeah, but this had sat at someone's shop for a couple of years. And it was just, this is neglect. And and I know what it is. I've seen it a lot of times. It's a computer. What are you supposed to do with it? It's like a toaster. And it's like, no, it's not. It's a little bit more than that. You know, if your company's livelihood is on these, you take care of them. You know, do you change the oil in your vehicles? Do you change it? Then you take care of the computers. But this one was just really, really bad neglect. But I always reference back to this one because we really, I don't even think we could salvage this thing. I think it was so far gone by the time we blew it out. That there was like, once we peeled away all the dirt and stuff, I think it was a bunch of blown caps and the power supply. I mean, you can see right here in the vents from the second image how the vents on the power supply were plugged up. I mean, I think this thing was pretty much dead. They brought it to us like, hey, can you fix it? And we're looking at this like, probably not. And we had actually really wanted to know, one of the things after the fact, we were like, we really wanted to try planting a couple of seeds and watering them and see if we can get, little flowers to grow inside the Dell planter. We really wanted to try that. We never got around to it because by the time we cleaned it out and then tried to test it, it finally went back to them. But needless to say, this was a good little stroll of memory lane for me, and I had a lot of fun. Hopefully some people have learned a few things too, especially the thermal paste. It's not magic gravy. I'm gonna keep calling it that too. Don't go overkill with stuff. If you really, really want to work on computers, I am all for it. I plan on hopefully throwing things out there that people can learn. But the main thing is educate yourself. Learn about things. And remember, there's going to be trial and error. If you're going to trial and error, do it on your own stuff. Don't do it on other people's, and don't ruin things for other people. In the case of the other people, the college kid, she couldn't afford to pay for that stuff. I actually scrounged together a hard drive and stuff like that for her, just to get her laptop back up so she can go back to school. Don't do questionable things just because you don't know. Educate yourself. If you want to help people, help them. But don't charge people for shoddy work because it's just horrible. So anyway, I'm going to try to end this on a little bit better positive note. But I want to thank you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe. We're working on stuff with the Miss A's Nom Noms, and I just got a whole bunch of other stuff. I got a bunch of ideas I'm going to be putting out there. You'll probably see some random stuff, and this is one of them. I just wanted to I've talked to some people about this. I was like, what, I could do a video on this. And I was like, so I did it. So if you guys enjoyed it, let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know too. And I appreciate you guys watching. Next time, guys. Thanks.